gosh. Yeah, you got it. I was like, it come up at. Okay, you two.
The McDonald's and the Abels got their mojo back.
Woohoo! Feels good to have some slime. Let's go.
The Musky Slump is something that we all inevitably have to deal with, and we've been very spoiled the last at least 5 or 6, 7 years. Dave and I, and like my core group of anglers that I fish with, and people in the area, we've had pretty good fishing early on in the season, and we haven't struggled like we are in 2024, and I think that's why this one feels like it's hitting harder for some reason, and there's a whole host of reasons why I'm taking it a little bit more personal, I guess. And it's not that I don't expect to run into trouble, because I think we all do. It's just that I think you get to a point in your musky fishing career where you feel like you kind of have it dialed in, you have your systems in place, and you never expect to catch fish because you have to work for them. And we've caught some fish. It's not like we haven't, but it's been a struggle. As I record this on July 4th, looking back at what kind of turned out to be the first couple weeks or few weekends of the season, we started with a slow day, but we put some fish in the bag. We went out, we caught a couple small ones. We had some success moving fish, but it just wasn't up to where our expectations were for 54 bust. I had a couple guide days in there that we struggled. We had a few chances, and it feels like because of all the tough weather we're having, your opportunities are very tight. You get a few chances every day, but you got to capitalize on them. It's a lot like fall fishing where the bite windows are super tight, and if you're not on the water at the right time, you're just not going to capitalize. And obviously with guiding, you can't control that, and Dave and I going out a few times, you can't control exactly, when you're going to be on the water at the right time. So we've struggled, and my friends Matt, Ron, and Cindy came up, and they had a tough week on Eagle, and Eagle can be tough when the bite's tough. My buddy Hunter over at Temple Bay, he's caught some fish, but it's been slow out there. I just talked to a buddy, Stephen Ford from Dryden. He says Wabigoon's been really tough. Yeah, guys are catching fish. Everybody's gonna, find a fish, and it's gonna go. It's not that it's just not happening for anyone. It's just that overall it's been really tough, and you can get a sense in the community here that this tough bite is starting to wear on now that we've kind of hit July. We're expecting a change in the weather to start tomorrow. We're hoping that changes it. And I'm not sure how you get out of a slump like this. It's just fishing. It's going to come around. I reached out to Kyle Friedges, and Kyle and I talk a lot. And I know he had a tough go at the start of the year last year. So much so that he said he felt like he just didn't want to go out at times because you wear that mentally a little bit. And he had a Lake of the Woods trip planned, and you had to fish through it, and he got the monkey off his back. And then from there on out, the end of the season, he was just rocking it. And for me, this feels like 2010, 2012, when we were new at really getting busy in the musky season or musky industry, and you'd catch some fish and then you'd go a few weeks and it would be tough. And that's what this feels like for me. It feels like I'm having to relearn everything all over again. Looking back over the past couple of years of fishing with my really good friends Ron, Cindy, and Matt, last year we didn't get to fish as much together, but we didn't put a fish in the boat while we were fishing, and it didn't sour our mood. We spent a lot of time together and we had a lot of fun. But looking back to 2022 and some of these clips, we put a lot of fish in the boat, but we were trying different waters, and definitely more production style waters. A little bit later in the season when things are more predictable. So it's hard to compare. You can't compare one year to another. You can't compare, you know, apples to oranges, so to speak. But this year they're up on Eagle and fishing with them, and we had a terrible day, tough day. I went out, fished with Hunter the next day on Eagle, had a really tough go. We only seen 3 fish. And then last weekend I stayed at my brother-in-law Richard's cabin. Richie and I went out, and of course when you're not paying attention, like right here, Richie gets hit. And again, it's the bite windows are so small. You've got to be on your game all the time, and that's bad on us. That's bad on us for not taking it serious enough, I guess. And then Kyla and I went out, and really nothing happened. So I come out of last weekend feeling pretty low, probably as low as I've felt in the musky industry in a long time. And I felt like I needed to take a break away from fishing, which I couldn't because I have some guiding coming up again. And let's face it, I'm not going to quit, but sometimes you need to recharge. And producing content for a channel, you know, writing an article for Hooked magazine, you feel like you need to be in touch with what's going on, so you kind of got to grind through it. But that doesn't make it any easier, guys. And I know all of you guys at home that have struggled or had a period where it just doesn't feel like it's happening. You wear that heavy because it feels like it's a reflection on your angling skills, or we can make all kinds of excuses about the weather, about the moon phase, but it just comes down to the fact that, you know, it's just not happening, and it feels like it's our fault. And a lot of times when it's tough like that, you got to really super focus and be on the water at those right times. And unfortunately, you can't be for a lot of us. And it makes it even harder. And I feel for the guides that are on the water every day and get in those 4 or 5 day slumps. And you hear about it, like guys like Steve Herbeck, he's talked about it on podcasts, 12 days without catching a muskie on Eagle. I mean, that feels unheard of in today's world, but that's the reality of it. And I know other guides that have gone, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 days without catching a fish or seeing much. And that's got to really hurt. And it, in a sport where you're judged by your last picture or your last catch, when you're not posting or you're not producing for your guests or your friends, it hits hard. And it really hit me to the point of, like I say, I felt like I needed to take a break away from this. And then something happened.
So the boat was out there, and Brad was randomly casting on the fish yesterday.
Didn't see it anywhere on the scope or nothing?
No, I just dropped it in. And he wasn't even looking at his bait.
No, he's talking and he's throwing it out, you know. I mean, and then I'm like,
have a look out to the right at about 3 o'clock.
you see something? Oh, that's a muskie, I'm pretty sure.
I'll throw you in the lake.
Oh, see? Oh, I was going to show
20 feet down, I guess.
Yeah. Kyla?
I think it's a big trout.
It looks musky,
Yeah, see the difference? Oh, I was gonna, she's looking at it now. The other one was like this, you know, we're like, no, that's a muskie. Be careful, because Kyla's right there. I don't like those hooks. Get a little.
Oh, sorry.
You bumped it.
He did, he's gone.
Yeah,
Oh, you got it. I was
Yep,
gonna say
I was
that.
like, it come up at you.
Jurassic.
I watched it.
Okay, Glenn, I was wrong, you broke it.
Frickin'
Unless it's
mad.
a
I was
pipe.
gonna cast
Is it
you.
a pipe?
Try and get
though?
on the left.
Is it a pipe? Get on the left?
Yep, get out of the way, Kyla.
I know, I never know what it's
Maybe my rod, or no, whose rod is that? Oh, yeah! I'm here.
On the board.
What was that, Matt?
Yeah, what?
You're going to be on
I didn't expect this
YouTube.
muskie. I thought it was just a lake trout or something. We've been having a rough go of it, and so I kind of stole the cast from Glenn and Kyla here because
I actually thought you were giving the rod to Kyla.
I couldn't help myself.
I was gonna cast on him.
Little muskie.
Not a huge one, but
We'll take it.
we'll take it. Gets the monkey off the back, so to speak.
There was another one. There usually two.
So this is like day 2 with the Abels for me. Kyla came along for good luck. And we're on a big fish spot, and they had caught one here yesterday with John Allen Bratland, kind of local legend around these parts. If you know, you know. And we just rolled up on the same spot, and actually Matt just kind of scoped around, and we seen one sitting out with bait out in front of the boat. He cast out, and the fish, actually, I think it just took off at the bait. It didn't, not like he scoped it, it was right there.
Happy Canada Day.
And yeah, it is Canada Day. Matt got a Canada Day muskie. We'll get it in and have a little look at it.
Yep.
Okay,
I'm ready.
Matt's gonna grab this one out. It's a Canada Day muskie. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, it's on the beautiful one.
Pretty fish.
Whoa.
Green.
Okay, you two.
Cisco chomper. Put it back and get another one.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. I only took one shot.
You're a little too
Canada Day, we gotta get a good picture.
Oh, that's a good one.
It might be the only opportunity.
Still a little bit of
Alright.
light.
You see?
Yeah, I see that one's probably good. Keep going.
All right, Matt. Good job.
Feeling good.
Get some monkey off the
Fine.
back. All right, that's one. Let's keep going. We got some fishy conditions, and the McDonald's and the Abels got their mojo back.
Feels good to have some slime. Let's go.
Right, we did hear that story from, yeah, I
Dan.
thought it was you, but it was Dan, yeah. Are you stuck? Oh boy.
That's where I want to be, right up there. Right up in the cookie jar.
Oh, Delia, did you see that? I just said that looks so good in the water. It brought him up. It worked. I saw its tail. It missed it. They missed. How did he miss it? Right?
I don't know if he went after it. Did he just buzz off?
You just made a little splash on it.
Okay. Try and slow us down as much as you can, Ron, and even maybe.
The prop is barely turning.
I know, but what you can do is you can.
All right, welcome back to another Little Tykes breakdown. And today, the breakdown is going to be brought to you by actually an old friend of ours, an old friend of my brother's, and it's John Gordon. And he's somebody that we've reconnected with through this channel. He lives in Southern Ontario. He started watching some musky stuff and happened to see one of our videos where his family's cabin was in the background. So small world, guys, but he's been a big supporter of what we do. We've chatted on and off the channel and through text, and it was really cool to reconnect with him. So today's breakdown is brought to you by an old friend, John Gordon. All right, so this fish that Matt catches, and first off, guys, we're not out sharpshooting. We're not actually just driving around looking for fish. This area here is known to produce fish out in open water because it is open water. It's a big basin, and it's a peninsula that comes out, and it's a rock cliff that drops right down to 60 feet of water right offshore. And what we see here a lot is the muskies and the trout will push Cisco's up against a rock wall like this. And you see this all across shield lakes that especially have trout. Trout are notoriously aggressive when it comes to bait, and they'll push those bait balls against a rock wall like that, where they have only two options. They either go up or they go down. Trout can chase them down. In a lot of cases, the muskies will chase them up. So in this case, you actually hear me on the video, or you hear Matt say that John Allen Bratland caught a fish right in that same area. So we're following their actual boat path. And yes, we are scanning around looking for the bait and looking for trout and or muskies. And we were actually going to set up to do a casting pass where we can't actually cast to the rock. You always, on these big, deep, clear lakes, you want to set up so that you cast about half the distance to structure, and then you can always move in. And you've heard us talk about that on other videos. So in this case, like we're out over the 75 feet of water with the boat, and you hear Matt say that John Allen caught his fish basically where we were planning on kind of casting. And we're just actually getting set up. Matt's got the rod. We're actually just going to set up to do that first kind of initial run around that point while staying deep. And then we can move back in, again, like we talk about a lot. And you hear Ron on the video say, hey, look to the 2 o'clock position. And there's a muskie sitting right there about 15 feet down. Matt cast out with a mini grenade. And it's kind of funny in the video, I looked over on the other live scope and I'm like, oh, the fish is gone, thinking that it run away right away or moved to the side. It come up and hit Matt's grenade right away. And Matt didn't actually know it was fully on until he really started to feel it pull back. Not a huge fish, but we've seen other fish in the area. And it goes back to patterning where these fish are. And in a tough year like this, when we're struggling, you do have to look outside the box, look deep, look where the bait is, and see if those fish are sitting off of structure. And that helped them put a few fish in the boat over the course of their trip. And it also helped us on other spots that night by staying a little bit further off of structure on our first pass. And then when we come back right at night, when I raised that one on the flap tail, we got a little bit tighter to structure. So it gives us the ability to work 2 different layers of the water column and target fish that might be sitting in different spots within that water. The big takeaway on a fish like this, and I'm not an advocate for let's just go out and live scope basins and only target those fish, because to me that takes the sport of fishing out of it. For me personally, live scope is a tool. It's a tool to find bait, and if you have it in perspective, you can see bait balls, you can see other species of fish, you can target in on a muskie and then maybe use the forward to see, where that fish is in the water column. It's a great tool to stay off of structure, stay off of weeds, and yes, we're going to see fish with it, and we will take a shot at that fish. And I just listened to a recent podcast, and Herbie was talking about if you see a fish and you take a cast at it and it doesn't go right away, that fish isn't going to bite. There's no point chasing that fish around the lake, harassing it, at least in my opinion. We don't do that. I don't advocate for that. But in this kind of scenario, if you guys are having a tough bite, look out in the open water and see where that bait is. We're not talking about targeting muskies that are 30 feet down in warm water in the summer. On this day, the water temps were like 63 to 65. The water is cold. It's a safe way to target fish, and the fish were out there. The fish were out with bait out in the basin, and you have to be able to adapt when you guys come to Shield Lakes. That's a big part of it. And now that we're transitioning into the summer, check out the video right here where we talk about the spring to summer transition. And this is a little bit of a different year, but some of those strategies will apply for you guys coming up to Shield Lakes. And for now, I feel like the slump is broken and we're going into July with positive musky vibes. And for now, 54 Bus is out of here. I'll catch you guys out on the water later.